Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we are going to be featuring some battles that my wife did with this team of Shadow Poliwrath. I think it's triple Shadow. Shadow Poliwrath, Shadow Skuntank with Trailblaze, and Shadow Drapion with Sludge Bomb. I believe this variation with Poliwrath lead was originated from Matt Beers, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure some people have come up with very similar variations. Anyways, we're gonna take a look at these battles. I think she went 4 positive sets and 1 negative set. So this team is quite strong in the current meta, especially with the lack of Cobalions in the meta. Drapion Safe Switch is even better. I do recommend Trailblaze and Sludge Bomb just in case you do run into the Poliwrath. So I'm gonna do 7 counters here and then try to catch the Shadow Ball onto the Drapion. He actually gets a Poison Sting extra as well, which is great. And then here comes Mandibuzz. This is where Sludge Bomb definitely comes in handy. This is the Air Slash Mandibuzz, so it's definitely a little bit worse against a little bit worse for Cindy. And the opponent throws on alignment there, which allows the extra Poison Sting to come through, which is very nice. I'm going to do 1 and throw. And the Sludge Bomb does a decent amount of damage. So a little bit surprised that they shielded the first one. And gonna be able to reach another one because of the opponent throwing on alignment there. Well, they might have still been able to reach it. Yeah, would have been able to still reach it, but still very helpful, and that allows it to be put into icy wind range. And the opponent decides to let it go and gonna switch out right away, and then gonna be met by the Registeel. This is where Flamethrower definitely would have came in handy, but Skuntank can still put up a decent fight here, and that opponent actually chooses to shield the first one again, which is very risky of them because it potentially could have been a crunch debuff, and there was enough energy to make it to the flamethrower. But I guess you do get the attack fall, which means that this crunch would have did less. This crunch does less than the previous crunch, which makes sense. Now defense fall. Now it's back to neutral. Gonna shield again because the Zap Cannon or / Focus Blast would do more damage. And then gonna throw the crunch. And then we're gonna see how this end game is gonna play out. Does reach the crunch. And then gonna attempt the catch and makes the very nice catch onto Shadow Poliwrath. And the opponent actually chooses to throw the Focus Blast. And then the opponent comes back in with the Jellicent. And we'll see what they're going to throw here. They're actually going to throw the Surf and choose to farm down. Gonna land the Icy Wind to guarantee debuff the Jellicent. Jellicent does resist the counter, a double resist counter, and resists the Icy Wind and Scald, and does get a pretty nice farm here. And I think this is okay here because the Skuntank is going to be able to take out this Jellicent, and they're going to be able to easily outpace the Registeel, and there's no way the Registeel can lock on down, and going to be able to land the crunch and take it out, and there's absolutely no way the Registeel is going to be able to outpace the Skuntank at that point in time since it's dry on energy. And those 2 really critical catches there resulted in a very nice win. So I think this, yeah, I really like the Drapion Safe Switch. Normally I don't. In previous seasons, like last 2 seasons, I didn't really like the Dark Poisons just because there's so many Cobalions. But in this particular case, there's not that many. And the opponent actually chooses to throw the Icy Wind, which has no stab. I'm going to immediately swap into Drapion. The opponent choosing not to throw the Icy Wind before the Sludge Bomb comes through. And then we do see a shield come up. And a Scald does not KO here. It does put it pretty low. And we're going to see, they actually choose to throw the Icy Wind. And then we see, I think that's a double. Going to throw the Crunch. Oh, no, it's actually Greedent here. And the Greedent actually has Bullet Seed, which is a very interesting variation. Normally you see Mud Shot just because it does generate energy a little bit faster. And the Bullet Seed is actually very favorable here, just since it is resisted by the Drapion, and gonna be able to spam a lot as opposed to as opposed to the Greedent having Mud Shot would deal super effective damage, would likely be able to Mud Shot down. And the switch and then landing the Icy Wind is very nice combo. This Greedent is debuffed. It does land the Trailblaze, does do quite a bit of damage, but gonna let this go. And then they actually Trailblaze again. They double Trailblaze. The Body Slam certainly would have KO'd. And then here comes Giratina. This is a good situation here, since Skunk Tank is going to be able to land a crunch and take this out. Ideally, waiting the clock there would have been slightly better, just so to make it a little bit easier on the catch. But the clock is going to come up anyways, and we will see what the opponent is going to do. They actually choose to throw. They put it would have been really close on the farm down, but they want to avoid the charge move. And they did farm a little bit off the poison sting, which is advantageous for them. Gonna shield to preserve a little bit of health. And we will see. Gonna throw on CMP. Very nice CMP tie. First is the Giratina to maximize the energy. And the opponent's only chance here is to make a catch. And this is almost certainly going to be an Icy Wind. It's going to debuff, but the Trailblaze is going to be enough to KO anyways. And good patience there, and going to be able to farm down the Greedent. If the Greedent would have thrown the Body Slam at the, if it had access to Body Slam, if it has access, if it had Body Slam, they only threw Trailblaze, so I'm not quite certain what moveset it had. And that was a very nice win there. And we're going to see Poliwrath into Ampharos. Very tough lead here. Going to do one counter and switch since the counter did quite a bit of damage. And then here, this is where not having Aqua Tail or Flamethrower is pretty detrimental. But you're basically trading off moves to throw at Poliwrath versus moves to throw at Cobalion. And Poliwrath is just simply way more common than Cobalion. So it makes sense to have those coverage moves, and you just live with this every once in a while situation. Does get the defense fall, which is going to be helpful for later. And the opponent chooses to throw the move. And we're going to see Poliwrath come right back in. You really need to get rid of this Cobalion. And the Cobalion makes a mistake here. Throwing the Stone Edge, even though it's resisted, certainly throwing the Sacred Sword allowed them to get to 2 Sacred Swords. And going to do 1 and throw the Icy Wind. Going for the bait and the guarantee debuff. The opponent chooses not to shield. And here comes Poliwrath. And this is a tricky situation here. Does the Poliwrath know that this is a Trailblaze? They actually choose to shield. But it does still boost the attack. And we will see if the Poliwrath goes for the Icy Wind. That means this Skunk Tank is going to be able to make it to another Trailblaze, which is very nice. And this is going to boost the attack again. Maybe you can get one more. Oh, the opponent actually choosing not to shield there. It's a very interesting switch there. And then the opponent makes a few mistakes in this match. Obviously, throwing the Stone Edge was a huge mistake. And then throwing these moves here, unlikely they would be able to make it to 3 moves. So the Poliwrath ends up countering down the Ampharos. Certainly would have been a guaranteed win if they would have fast moved down, but that's a very, very tough call to make. So turned out pretty nice there. And we're going to go ahead and go into this next match. Shadow Poliwrath into Walrein. This is one of the reasons why Walrein basically went extinct in this meta, because of the power of Poliwrath. And you can see this team is very hard countered. And you can see the Swampert coming into Poliwrath. Not a very common Pokemon that you see coming into Poliwrath. And this Swampert is only going up to the Hydro Cannon, so gonna be easy no shield since the Swampert is debuffed and Hydro Cannon is resisted. And we're gonna see another Scald come through and attack fall again. This is just gonna be another Hydro Cannon, and gonna be able to easily counter down. We're gonna see what's gonna come in, and it is actually the Walrein. This is only enough for an Icicle Spear. The Walrein did not build up to the Earthquake. Still gonna do some okay damage, but we're gonna see the Scald come through. This is resisted by the Walrein, but we'll see if the attack fall happens. No attack fall, but these counters are eating up this Walrein. And we're going to see what's in the back and is going to be a Talonflame. As you can see, these poison jabs are doing quite a bit of damage, and staying patient there. Gonna shield anyways, like just gonna be able to reach 2 crunches before the Talonflame can reach 2 flame charges, and then gonna be able to reach this crunch right beforehand and take. This is certainly going to be enough to take out the Talonflame, and then going to be able to easily farm down this Walrein and picking up a very nice. I believe that's that's 4-0 in this current set. These Ultra League battles are quite lengthy, and we're going to see Poliwrath into Obstagoon. Tremendous lead here, and they come into Waterfall Gyarados. Very interesting switch in, and going to throw the Icy Wind to debuff this Gyarados. The counters are resisted, but so are the Waterfalls. The question here is, does this Gyarados have access to Outrage? It throws the Crunch, and gonna switch into Drapion. This Poison Sting down is gonna be quite difficult to do, and we'll see what this Gyarados decides to throw. It actually decides to throw the Crunch, which would have been resisted, and looks like they lag there. But this Drapion has a tremendous amount of energy. Gonna throw the Sludge Bomb. This is why Sludge Bomb is really nice for these type of situations. You can see here, the Sludge Bomb does about 45%. Gonna be able to land another Sludge Bomb versus this Obstagoon. Gonna have to throw again. Not gonna, and no matter what move they throw here, unless it's Hyper Beam, where they don't have enough energy, even if it's a cross shop, it would not KO. And gonna switch and counter down this Goon, and we're gonna see the Scizor get basically top left this matchup. Triple weak to Poliwrath was very difficult for the team to deal with. So we're gonna go ahead into this next game here. We'll show up this second set here, and then we'll see how this team stack up. Cresselia is a very tough lead to deal with, since it does resist the counters and is able to deal super effective damage. And we see the Walrein come in, and we're gonna see how this is gonna play out. Can the Drapion flip switch here is the real question. No debuff, very unfortunate. And the opponent decides to throw. It looks like it was CMP, and this is not enough for the Earthquake. So we will see. Oh, the opponent decides to. I didn't think it was enough there, but and gonna shield again. Gonna try to preserve switch here, and we're gonna see. Gonna throw the Crunch, and we'll see what this opponent is going to do. Are they going to commit to the switch? They do not. And we will see what's in the back. And they come back into Cresselia. Cresselia up 2 shields to 0, but 1 charge move will not be enough to take out this Drapion. And the Psycho Cut down is going to be very difficult, since the Psycho Cuts are single resistant and Cresselia is very tanky. And we will see what this Cresselia is going to do. We're going to see the Crunch come through here, and the opponent decides to throw. This looks like, is it yeah, enough for the Grass Knot, and gonna come into Skunk Tank, and then they come into Charm Clefable. Gonna throw the Trailblaze at perfect timing, and the Trailblaze is not enough to KO, but gonna bank the Crunch and then look to switch here. And this is basically game over. There's absolutely no way for the opponent to win. Gonna be able to land an Icy Wind, which is gonna debuff the Grass Knot or Moonblast. And we will see what the opponent. I think the opponent was contemplating top lefting, but they decided to play this matchup out. Unfortunately, the Moonblast is not enough to win the game there, and overcoming a very tough lead. But that team was very weak to Dark Poison. Dark Poison, again, not that common in the meta. And we see Poliwrath into Galarian Stunfisk, and we see it come into Dragon Breath Giratina. This Dragon Breath Giratina is very tricky to deal with, since it's going to be able to flip switch versus either of the Pokemon in the back. When you want to deal dark damage, then switching Drapion makes way more sense since you're able to make it to the move much faster. And the opponent actually decides to throw the Ancient Power as opposed to the Dragon Claw. I'm not sure what moveset it has. And they actually decide to give up switch. And we will see what the opponent is going to do. Gonna throw the Crunch. This is only going to deal a little bit of damage, maybe like 30%. And they actually decide to shield. They want to preserve health on the Galarian Stunfisk. They double up on the Rock Slide. This is almost certainly a Rock Slide. Earthquake would be a huge overkill. And going to come back into Poliwrath. And this is enough for the Earthquake. We will see whether or not a shield will come up. A shield does come up, and the opponent chooses not to bait. And going to throw the Scald right away. And we will see what the opponent is going to do. They actually end up shielding. They must be very fearful of the Poliwrath in the back, and they do throw the Earthquake. And are we going to see the counter down? We will see the counter down, and the opponent decides to leave the matchup, realizing that Poliwrath is going to be too much to overcome, plus a whole nother Pokemon in the back. And we're going to see Poliwrath into Charizard. Very tricky lead. And they come into Sylveon. Very interesting switch in. And going to throw the Crunch Bait. We will see whether or not this will get the shield. The Sludge Bomb would do quite a bit. And the opponent decides to no shield. Going to go for the Sludge Bomb. And we will see if the opponent will decide to shield. They actually do decide to shield. What a call by the opponent. And throws on CMP. And this is going to be a side shot, going to be enough to take it out. And likely going to come into Skunk Tank. And we're going to see whether or not Skunk Tank can clean up this matchup with the Charizard in the back. And the Charizard does come in. Going to throw the Crunch at the Charizard, over-farming a little bit to try to throw off the Charizard's count. We'll see whether or not a defense fall does come through. Gonna shield this, and we'll see what's in the back. And able to farm down before they make the move. That debuff was super clutch here. And this is a Charm Grand Ball. We're gonna see whether or not they're gonna shield. And the Charm does take it out, and we will see whether or not Poliwrath can counter. Or no, don't need to counter down, but gonna be able to reach the Icy Wind and take out this Shadow Grand Ball. Really nice play there. Charizard, a double Charm. Very interesting team comp there. And we're going to go into this next game here. We're going to see Poliwrath into Galvantula. Very tricky lead here. Going to switch out right away. Can throw the Crunch right away into the Galvantula. They would actually be one turn stuck into the move there. But, oh man, that's devastating. Here comes Mandibuzz. Very tricky situation here. And there's actually... Okay, gonna farm up some more here, but because of the debuff here, there's not really too much that can be done. There's no reasonable way to flip switch here. This Aerial Ace probably doesn't KO, but they can probably snarl down. And gonna throw the Sludge Bomb. Very tricky situation here, because the farm down would be very devastating here. And hoping that the opponent throws here. Oh, able to reach the Crunch. We'll see whether or not this Mandibuzz will shield. Oh, they choose not to shield. Does get the debuff there, but that is very devastating. And I think the Mandibuzz still survives this counter, which is absolutely insane. Oh, that is devastating there. And gonna switch out, and this Galvantula is choosing to stay in. Gonna debuff the last Pokemon here, but this is a very, very tricky situation here. And gonna throw the Crunch right away at this Galvantula. We'll see if they choose to shield. They do choose to shield. No defense drop. That is absolutely devastating here. Gonna shield. This is gonna be another debuff though, and you need to farm down here. There's absolutely no choice, and unfortunately the Galvantula survives with 1 HP. Really no other win con, right? Because they still have a shield, and gonna be able to counter down. And it is unfortunately a Jellicent in the back, throwing the Crunch right away at the Galvantula would have been the best play there, but we see another favorable lead here, and they come into Giratina, and this is a Shadow Claw variant of Giratina. So unless they boost, this is absolutely game over, and the opponent decides to leave the matchup. And that is gonna be the end of the video. Again, shout out to Matt Beers, shout out to my wife for doing these battles here. If you want to check out all the rest of the battles, they are on twitch.tv/kingiv or on YouTube on the live stream replays. This is definitely a team that I would recommend if you're looking to climb. Pretty straightforward team. Safe switch into Drapion and then let Poliwrath and Skuntank clean up. Anyone's gonna leave it there. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.